But thank you very much for being here for this lecture in the Frontiers in Science series put on by the Sisters Science Club. These lectures have been going, maybe not on the same monthly schedule, but they've been going for quite a long time, like since 2011. There was a little interruption for that unfortunate pandemic we had a few years ago. And in a way, we're pulling ourselves back from that problem. But I think we're pretty well back. It looks like a great audience tonight. So I'm going to start out by just noting, I'm sorry, I'm Larry Price. I'm a member of the board of the Sisters Science Club, and I'm the MC for tonight. There's a long list of people that we need to thank for their help in putting on this event. We don't do it alone, even the board doesn't do it alone. So the most important, or at least and very important, thank you, is to Angeline, who runs this event space and the Belfry. So let's just hear it for Angeline. And then there's the board, and I don't know if applause is necessary, but let me go through all of them before any applause anyway. Our president, David Duran, who's around, a hand way in the back of the room, very important. Don Utzinger. Don, are you?
He went home sick.
He went home sick. And, okay, is his job being done tonight?
I don't know.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you. His job is doing the video of these talks so that they can go on the website and people can catch up later if they didn't happen to be able to be here. And that's a very nice service that he's provided. So that is being taken care of tonight. Thank you. I missed who was doing it, but so Don Utzinger. Oh, yeah, he puts the talks on the website. So our website is sisterscienceclub.org. Shouldn't be too hard to remember. No punctuation, just run it all together. And that has a list of all these good people on the board. It has a collection of past talks on video that you can watch and remember the highlights of the past couple of years anyway. So that's an important thing that he does. Other members of the board, myself along with David Ellis and Joe Sherry. David and Joe, can you put up your hands? Okay, back there toward the back, both of them. The three of us work on securing speakers for the Frontiers in Science. So we're people you can contact if you know of a terrific speaker that would love to speak at a future talk. Find one of us. Or do we have a place on our website to suggest speakers? I'm not sure, but we should. And then David Johnson. Is David here? Don't see a hand. Gail Todd, who is here. Okay. And Jocelyn Blevins, if I can see right there. So thank you all, board, for not only putting on this event, but providing support to science teaching in the schools in Sisters as well. An important thanks is to Peyton Myrie, who runs the sound system and is allowing me to talk to you now at an appropriate volume. And then Gail Todd is someone we have to keep thanking. So she was out in front admitting people tonight and taking contributions. So thank you again, Gail. So I know we want to get on with the talk, but just a few points before we actually got on to do that. We very much want any ideas that you have or suggestions for future lectures in this lecture series. So please contact one of us to make those suggestions. Somewhat different kind of point to make, but still important, is that we need donations from people who are excited by our mission. All of our work is run on donations, And while we've been doing pretty well, we need them to keep coming. So thank you for what you've done so far, and thank you for your future donations. And then we're also looking right at the moment to beef up the board with the possibility of new members. So we're recruiting new board members, and if you think you might be interested, if you think you might have some of the expertise that we need, Gail in back, and she's holding it up, has a piece of paper that's all made out as a form that you can write your name down, and then we'll be able to contact you and go through deciding on whether you should really become a member of the board. So the kind of criteria that we're looking for is, of course, that you may be willing to help with creative fundraising efforts. That's important. I'm not sure that we have, in fact, I'm pretty sure we don't have, a really great fundraiser on the board right now. If you're a great fundraiser or any kind of fundraiser, let us know. If you're able to help with programming and planning for this Frontier in Science lecture series. And finally, if you're generally willing to take on leadership roles and use your skills to support the organization. Board terms are 2 years. We meet somewhat irregularly, but at least 4 times a year, both in person and remotely. We're looking for new board members. As we've said, no prior board experience is required. We're looking for folks with passion, commitment, and a desire to make a difference, of course. So, on with the show. Oh, I would like to just make a pitch that we have a bunch of exciting talks lined up for future months, starting in February with Dr. Eric Schur, talking on genetic engineering and gene therapy. That's a pretty hot topic these days. In March, this is always on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. In March, Dr. Lisa Tokes, Hunting the Earth's Magnetic Field, Past and Present. In April 21st, Dr. Kevin Hodgson will talk on nuclear energy, fundamentals, applications, and future developments. Talk about a heavy topic. And we hope to have a talk in May, but we haven't quite firmed it up. So, tonight, the topic is dark skies, why we should care. And we have 2 speakers sharing the microphone. Rima Kitt, who's a revered science teacher at Sisters High School. She told me not to say that, but this is my own editorial opinion, and I'm not going to be swayed. She's been there since 2000, and she teaches astronomy, biology, environmental science, and chemistry. And my gosh, I wish I knew all that. She's been active with the work to update the local dark sky ordinances, both in Sisters and more generally in Deschutes County, and is working on helping Sisters has worked on helping Sisters become a dark sky community. She recognizes that every person's actions matter and has seen that light pollution can be instantly reduced by using responsible lighting practices. Scott Woodford, our other speaker, is the Community Development Director for the City of Sisters and has been involved in dark sky efforts for the community for the last 5 years. And before his 5 years in Sisters, he worked for cities in Colorado and also in Oregon. He's been working in Sisters, including updating the city's dark sky outdoor lighting ordinance and assisting on the successful application for the community's International Dark Sky Community designation. The CDD office works to ensure compliance with the lighting ordinance for new development and responding to code complaints on existing lighting. So Rima and Scott, thanks very much for being here. Take it away.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. So my name's Rima Gibbett. I'm here with Scott Woodford, and then also Barb Bajek and Mel Bartels and Scott Humpert from Explore Sisters. We are part of the Dark Sky Committee for Sisters, and this presentation has been a collaboration of all of us, and so I just wanted to recognize their hard work behind the scenes to make this possible. It's been really fun to work as a team. So I grew up in South Clackamas County on the other side of the mountains and until middle of high school, and then my family brought us over here, and my dad opened his chiropractic office in Sisters. If any of you saw Dr. Gibbett, he was my dad. And together we looked at the stars, and moving here, being able to look at the Milky Way every night that it was clear and visible really made me feel connection to a place where it was normal to see the Milky Way, and helped me start to build a deep sense of connection. So I want to talk about that with you. Tonight we'll be sharing with you why dark skies matter to all of us. So I want to start with a little quiz first, fun little quiz. Maybe do it with the people you're next to. The first one, what constellation is this? Yeah, that was a good one. Orion, we can see it the next time it gets clear. Which bright star in this constellation is about to go supernova? Betelgeuse. So I wish I had a pointer, but Betelgeuse is the upper left one, the orangish one, it's one of his shoulder stars. It turns out that it dimmed noticeably in 2020, and it's predicted to go supernova like in the next 100,000 years, so that's like it'll probably get to be as bright as the full moon for a couple months, and then dim down to a neutron star. Rigel is the lower right bright white-blue one. It's one of the knee stars, and it will also probably go supernova in the next couple million years. And it'll be so massive it'll probably turn into a black hole or maybe a neutron star. So just a little bit of astronomy for you. So which of these different options is considered light pollution? All of them. Yes. And how many stars can you see on a clear night?
4,500.
So in Portland or Seattle or Eugene, it's like 5 to 10. 500 is like in the suburban area, so in bright areas of Sisters, probably a little more than 500, but there are some areas probably not that much more. But most of our area is on a clear night sky, we can see up to 2,500 stars, which that's pretty special. And then for all of us science nerds, which was invented first? Well, they were very close. It was like 10 years apart, but the microscope got the patent in 1610, and then the telescope got the patent in 1620. But they, just thinking about the worlds in two different opposite scales that they opened up for people is pretty fun to think about. So tonight we're going to focus on what is light pollution, what are the effects, how is light pollution measured, and then how can we preserve starry skies and Sisters. And Scott and I'll be doing the first part, and then Scott will talk for the second part. So let's start with light pollution. What is it? Light pollution is the excessive, misdirected, or inappropriate use of outdoor artificial light. So it's outside. You can see in this picture, the far one on the right here has no shielding, lots of light wasted going up into the sky. The next one, a little bit of shielding, but still most light going up. The next one, even, still lots of light going where it's not needed. The next one is well shielded. It is just directing the light where it is intended, and we can't see the source of the light, which means it's not drawing our attention to the light, it's drawing our attention to where we want to look. And then the last one emits the least amount of light pollution, and it's great unless you need to see the ground. Artificial light at night, known as ALAN, is any human-made light source illuminating the environment after dark. And I'm actually going to be talking both about light pollution, which is outside and impacts our skies, but also all aspects of artificial light at night, which more and more research is showing really can impact our health. And so street lights, building lights, screens, your screens emit artificial light at night, and then also any indoor lighting. Light pollution disrupts natural darkness, it wastes energy, it obscures the night sky, and harms wildlife, ecosystems, and human health by interfering with our natural sleep cycles and behavior. Artificial light at night also acts as a significant pollutant. So they're similar things, but maybe artificial light at night is a little more broad. It also negatively affects wildlife behavior, navigation, and reproduction. I'll be going more into that. Human health, sleep and disease risk by altering circadian rhythms, and this is a global issue. So why are dark skies worth protecting? Well, I think it's pretty ubiquitous that when we can see a big starry night, it helps give us a sense of place in the universe. It helps us connect to nature and our ancestors, and it's beautiful, brings peace and inspiration. Personally, I gained my passion and appreciation for stars and being able to identify the beauty above me with my dad, and nights of gazing at the stars with him. In high school, I started sleeping out on my parents' deck all summer and really developing a sense of place where the Milky Way just streamed overhead every night. So let's talk about health. And I think that this is where a lot of the new research has been showing up lately. High levels of research have associated adverse effects with artificial light at night with increased sleep disorders, cardiovascular diseases, stroke, obesity, diabetes, cancer, mental disorders. There's correlation with autism, but it's a little too early to say more. It's just starting to come out in the research. And these have all shown adverse outcomes in various studies. Clearly, health is linked to the exposure of light and darkness. Light pollution, so what's the why? Light pollution interrupts melatonin, and the melatonin-serotonin cycle by suppressing melatonin production. This disrupts our circadian rhythm, resulting in poor sleep. Mood and brain activity is also affected. Melatonin is an ancient molecule. It appears across all organisms, and darkness at night helps contribute to melatonin production and more restful sleep. Many recent studies are contributing data that continues to amplify the importance of avoiding artificial light at night. So after this talk, I'm hoping you might consider looking, well, what is my home like? And maybe that might influence a little bit of how well you're sleeping. One recent study from 2023 found that outdoor light at night negatively affects glucose homeostasis and diabetes in Chinese adults. And this study was a cross-sectional study of almost 100,000 people. So it was really big, and that was published in 2023. Another study showed biological benefits of the color of the light. So showing that low color temperature, meaning warm, orange, amber colors, had a beneficial effect. And so when we think warmer light, we think firelight. And that makes sense because our ancestors evolved looking into the fire. And then the fire would die down, and then the embers would be there, and that's what we would end up sleeping next to. And so that color of light isn't as impactful on our health as blue light. So let's talk about circadian clocks. Circadian rhythms or clocks are the daily rhythms or cycles in our body that are driven by the sun. The sun drives life on the earth, and so it's logical that our systems are in sync with the day-night cycles. Humans rely on light and darkness for our circadian rhythms and melatonin production, which lead to more restful sleep. The most common, well-studied circadian clock is the sleep-wake cycle. There are others, but that's the most well-known. This diagram shows how the sun synchronizes our biological clocks, starting with the master clock in our brain, which then synchronizes all the clocks in our organs down to, and our systems down to every cell in your body. So think about that. Every cell in your body has its own clock that's influenced ultimately by the sun. Pretty cool to think about that. And also other light sources too that you expose yourself to. So do you guys know why blue light is so influential to our bodies? It turns out there's a fourth receptor they've discovered in our eyes that are specific to blue light concentrated in the sun that is then sent to the brain, to a specific part to help us activate. It's the same blue light that comes from our screens. And warmer color doesn't have that same influence. Those receptors aren't triggered by the warm light. And it makes sense because it's during the day that we need that blue light to get ourselves activated. Melatonin is known as the hormone of darkness. It's a hormone that your brain produces in response to darkness. So if there's blue light, that's opposite of darkness. It helps with the timing of our circadian rhythms, think the 24-hour internal clock, and with sleep. So being exposed to blue light at night can block the melatonin production. And that came out of a study recently from National Library of Medicine. Each of us also has a chronotype, our genetic preference of when we're active and awake and when we sleep, such as the early bird or the lion, the sun-aligned bear, the light-sleeping dolphin, or the night owl or wolf. So what's your chronotype? And how strong are you in that type? Because there's definitely a continuum. And, importantly, does your lifestyle align with your chronotype? Such as do you prefer to be asleep and active, and are you doing it in alignment with what feels natural to you? We're learning how important it is to listen to our bodies. So I want to walk through a couple studies, pretty recent studies. This one came out in October 2025, so just last fall. Looking at increased incidence of cardiovascular disease in response to being more exposed to light. So this study was done with 89,000 individuals aged 40 plus over almost 10 years. They looked at 13 million hours of personal light exposure data from wrist-worn sensors and then coupled that with health records. They found that across the board there was increased risk in all these different heart diseases or heart conditions due to higher light exposure. And this was after they adjusted it for things like age, sex, race, ethnicity, education, employment, income, physical activity, smoking status, alcohol consumption, diet, and urbanicity. I love that word. So you can see coronary artery disease, myocardial infarction, heart failure, atrial fibrillation, and stroke. The red was just normalized as the darker exposure, and then the blue were the relative number of people that were in the more light exposure at night, and significantly more risk to heart disease. Another study focused on heart circadian rhythms, demonstrating that, and so this kind of explains this, that the heart has multiple clocks in it. And if they're not in sync, heart attack rate increases. The syncing of your heart clocks are associated with the darkness at night and negatively influenced by artificial light at night. So it makes sense that there are more heart attacks at night with increased light at night. So it turns out there happen to be more heart attacks at night, and so people are exposed to more light at night. That makes sense for why. What we're realizing is darkness, like light at night, has similar health implications as smoking. This is another study that was done, this one in 2020, or was published in 2022. It looked at light at night in older age associated with obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. So they looked at about 550 people, and the people that were exposed to light at night, 40% of those people had a rate of 40.7% obesity, whereas no light at night had 26.7%. People that were exposed to light at night had 17.8% rate of diabetes compared to 9.8%, so just under half, or just over half. Hypertension, 73% in the light at night, 59.2% for the people that were in the dark. And so what does dark mean? It means less than 5 lux, which is a measurement of how bright your light is, and warm light. And so think fireplace, like if the firelight coming out of your fireplace, that's like, that didn't have much effect. That would have been that no light. We're looking at people that are exposed to blue light or light that is brighter than 5 lux at night. So that was the health part. And it's interesting because the research now is showing the reality of it. I also want to talk about the ecological perspective. And it mirrors our human health, which makes sense. So animals use stars to navigate during migration. Many nocturnal animals depend on darkness for survival, to hunt and navigate. Birds estimated, this was a study done that was published in the Lawrence Times in March of 2025, so just last year. They were estimating about 1 billion birds die annually during migration due to light pollution. And that's something I think that we have power over. That's the cool thing about this, is it's really easy to change, well, can be easy to change it. So some communities are reducing their light pollution just during times of migration, which can be very, very powerful. Many flying insects use natural light at night to navigate. They use the moon and the stars. And so, the night sky was always brighter historically than on the ground. And so they use that, and what they do is they tilt their backs to the brightest light source, which in natural areas is the night sky. But with artificial lights, they'll position their backs to the light and then just circle endlessly, and then they die of exhaustion from flying. They could be pollinating instead. Color is important too. Most insects have color vision, as we understand now, in the ultraviolet, green, blue range. They don't see the warm colors as well, and so having lights that are warm have a more beneficial impact. Bright light at night has been shown to influence when a tree will lose its leaves, which I find so interesting. There's been studies where a tree is under a streetlight that's on all the time, and the side that's exposed to the streetlight will keep its leaves longer into the winter. This can make it vulnerable to damage when the cold arrives if the tree is still active. So I also think about that with those really pretty lights that shine up a tree at night, because they accent the tree. It's so pretty, but then if you think about all the little critters that are up in that tree living, trying to sleep at night, they have a light on them all night, and so that can impact their biology as well. Light at night can impact predator-prey relationships, extend the activity of diurnal species into nighttime hours, and also interrupt the circadian rhythms governing the timing of breeding, nesting, migrating, and foraging. So lots of reasons animals need darkness at night. This is a study that came out in January, this month. Brand new, looking at impact of light pollution on bird migration. So this particular study was done off the coast of Croatia. This is in Europe, and they found that birds were attracted more towards light pollution. So they'd go where the light was. The light pollution reduced their air speeds, and altitudes. It made them disoriented, increased the numbers of bird collisions, and impaired visibility. And this was interesting, even the lower intensity light pollution had a negative impact, and so they really need darkness to migrate. Insects too. So we talked a little bit about insects, but this was another study. This one was published in 2024. So the top picture shows a little road or pathway with street lights that are not shielded, and so they're just shining out, and you can see on the field to the left, it's all bright. And so down below, wherever there's dark blue, that's area that's not lit up, and what we think the insects will be influenced as much by or be able to detect. And so anything that's green or yellow, red's the most bright. So what they did was they simply shielded those lights and directed the light where it was intended to go on the road where people were going to be driving or walking. And what the insects see, where they're these are insects that live up in the ecosystem off the road, they're not influenced as much by those targeted lights. Just the area on the road is influenced. And so things like that can be pretty powerful. November 2025, this just came out a couple months ago, connecting climate change to light pollution. This is interesting because it makes sense from an energy level, but it's actually from an ecological level. What they found was artificial light at night actually disrupts the fundamental energetic constraints on ecosystem metabolism. In other words, across the ecosystem, more energy was being consumed, more breathing out of carbon dioxide with the light pollution on those areas. Warranting the inclusion of light pollution in global change and carbon climate feedback assessments. More CO2 is being released from ecosystems, but not more was being taken up. And so there was a net output. And on top of that, there's increased pressure on native organisms that are already stressed. So it is really a global issue. Also, education. We have a vibrant astronomy program here in Sisters and in the Bend schools. There's a growing program in the Magis schools, and so that's pretty fun, just having dark skies. It just helps our students learn and grow and connect as well. And I want to highlight specifically the sky quality meters. The Sisters High School students have been involved with helping to collect data on how dark our skies are here in town. We have a sky quality meter that is at the high school, and then another in East Sisters, but we monitor the high school one, and the students collect that data. They also help a couple times a year go through the whole town and monitor different sites around town to see how dark it is, which has been really fun for them to engage and see what the community is doing. And I'll talk more about that data in a moment. And then finally, tourism. So as the world gets more and more exposed to light pollution at night, people are seeking out places where they can still see this at night. And our home is one of those places. And we are right on the edge of one of the darkest places in the United States, aside from Alaska. And people are coming here to see this, and so it's truly worth saving. So why have we created so much light pollution? And I think one of the big elephants in the room, besides light simply being beautiful, I mean, as the stars clearly show us on a clear night, they're beautiful, light is beautiful. But also, many of us have a fear of darkness and the unknown. And I think that's a big piece of why we have the light pollution that we have. Fear of the night is called nyctophobia. Fear of lack of light is called scotophobia. But more light does not equal increased safety. And I think that there's a misconception there. And also, the fact that our fear is genuine, and it's okay to have that fear, but sometimes just naming it and recognizing helps us look at how can we take care of this issue and take care of ourselves as well. Also, few of us get to experience darkness. We're just not used to it, and so when we're not used to it, it becomes more scary. Bright street lighting, leaves many feeling unsafe, but is a street light going to save you? Nope. There's a big gap between perception of safety and actual safety. So I want to just talk a little bit more about how do we make our lights safe. So this is an interesting one. Our eyes are naturally drawn to light. And so shielding lights and reducing glare really helps improve safety. So if you look at the top picture, you instantly just look at the light. That's where our eyes are drawn. But if you look at the bottom picture where the light is shielded and you can see everywhere where the light is lighting up, you see that there's a man standing in that gate. And he's also in the top picture. You just can't see him because the light's too bright. And so these images demonstrate how responsible lighting actually improves safety. The important point is that more light doesn't always result in safer environment. It's the way that we light that's important. So what's important is shielding the light so that the light points where it needs to go and is a warm color. So this is how the United States lights at night have changed from the 50s to the 70s, the 90s to 2025. And we live right there, right on the edge of one of the darkest, biggest areas of darkness in the contiguous United States. And that's pretty special. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we measure darkness. We have two ways I'm going to talk about tonight. One is the Bortle scale. One is excellent dark sky sight, like you can just see everything, see the ground because it's so light from the stars. And this is like the outback that dark area I was just pointing out. Dark sky sight, this is like Blackbeet Ranch and Pine Mountain Observatory. Rural sky, and sky, SQM stands for sky quality meter. That's where, I'm not going to go into the units of that, but that's what we use to measure the darkness when we walk around and check it out. So equivalent 22 is equivalent to 1, 21.4 equivalent to rural sky. In sisters, we range between the 3 to the 5 in the neighborhoods, and in the brighter areas of town from 5 all up to about not just below the 7, just a little bit darker than the 7. Portland, Eugene's in that bright area. And I wanted to show you some of the data just because of this is just fun to see the science that we're doing here with our students are participating. There are 65 sky quality meters around Oregon. Dark Sky Oregon is really active in just collecting the data and seeing what is happening with our darkness in Oregon. And so I don't know if you can see those little numbers, I'll point them out, but number 11 is the high school sky quality meter, and number 27 is the one in East Sisters. And again, those were put in 2020. And so you can kind of see the level of darkness across the state, a little bit across the state of where some of the darker areas are compared to some of the areas that you really can't see the sky. So this brings us to like really just how powerful it could be if we choose to make changes. So this is a model, both are modeling from data that was taken from those sky quality meters and other data and satellite data. It was for 2023, but it's still pretty current. And so on the left is modeled what the light pollution looks like, with pink in the middle being just like so bright you can't see anything, red, and then moving out to black being it's just dark and you can see all the stars. And so this is what our state looks like with most of the lights shielded with about 15% up light and like 3,000 Kelvin color. 3,000 means that it's like in that yellow-white color. So it's a little bit warm, but not really warm. Well, if you take the same amount of lights, don't even turn them off, you just shield them really well. Meaning you put covers on them so you can never see the light source, you can't see the light bulb, you just see where it's lighting up the ground. And you turn them amber colored, more yellow orange. That's what the state would look like in 2023. We just have to shield our lights and dim them down a little bit and make them amber colored. And then it just takes out all the red, orange, and yellow, or excuse me, all the red, orange, and pink. And even Portland would have pretty good skies. So that's my biggest send-off. And then finally, can you think of some actionable items we can do as a community and things that you personally can do to limit light pollution? As you think about that, I'm going to turn this over to Scott. And one more picture from this morning. And it's the fact that we have dark skies allows us to see things like this. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
All right, thank you, Rima. Well, Rima did a great job of kind of laying out the scientific background basis for why dark skies matter. I'm going to give you more of the practical side. I don't have a science background. I did take astronomy in college, but I haven't thought a whole lot about it since then until I came across Rima. And I want to just kind of give credit to her, to her passion in this community and what she's and her groups have done to really push this issue forward and to compel the city to kind of do its part in this whole thing, because there's a lot to gain if we do it right. There's a lot to lose if we don't do it right at the city side, because that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, on implementation of good lighting. So what can we do as a community, and what can you do as individuals? And there's a lot. So in terms of a community, I just want to commend Sisters as a whole. I think we're way ahead of the ballgame in terms of creating that passion and that culture of appreciation for the dark skies, which makes my job a whole lot easier, makes City Council's job a whole lot easier, and really is the driving force behind dark sky designation, the update to our lighting ordinance so that it is basically a world-class lighting ordinance now, and kind of meets all the current thinking in terms of how to protect our night skies. And we couldn't do that without the advocates in the community really pushing this. The Sisters Science Astronomy Club and the Sisters High School Science Club, or Astronomy Club rather, have been doing things for many years prior to my involvement in this. And they've done stargazing parties, they've done lots of letter writing, articles in the newspaper, done a lot to raise awareness and educate the community on why this is so important. The Sister Science Club with their lectures have also been a huge advocate. And all those community members that have come, written letters to the city, have come to public comment, expressing their support and encouraging the city to do more, has been a major advantage to this process. And I just want to point out that we do have a Dark Sky Oregon a group that is based out of Central Oregon, and they've been wonderful in terms of assisting us on some of the measurement of the dark skies, and they were big advocates and help for us getting our dark sky designation here in Sisters. So, as I mentioned, political support is also very important because what we do at the city with our ordinance, with new development, is so critical to making sure that we don't lose what we have. And so we've had an ordinance since 2001. It's been updated several times, just most recently in 2024. And I'll go in a little bit more about what that ordinance calls for. but it's probably one of the most progressive and stringent ones in Oregon. And we did it largely because we needed to, but we took it a step farther because of the community's desire to become a international dark sky designated community. And that wouldn't have happened without first the community support, but then the council support. And I remember kind of one of the key moments in that whole process was Rima and her students coming into city council and putting on a presentation similar to what she just showed you, and really motivated and inspired the council to want to go forward and become the first dark sky community and certified community in Oregon. Well, we weren't the first, but we were a close second. You guys know which one beat us to the punch? Antelope. So I think they have one street light. It's not fair. Sisters, we like to call ourselves the largest community, certified community. So after we got that designation, after the ordinance has been updated, one of our major work items at the city is to educate the community on what the ordinance says. One of the key provisions of the ordinance is that within 5 years of adoption, that you have to bring all the lighting that's not in conformance into compliance within 5 years. And so that 5-year deadline is now about a 3-year deadline. And so we're working hard to try to get the word out about what you can do to do the right thing, to what constitutes compliant lighting, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. One great thing that the council has supported is, if we're going to make these rules, let's provide some help for the community and for the people who, that this might be a cost burden to replace their lighting. So we just got a program together and launched it last week. And it's it's only for Sisters residents, but it's only for residential initially. And what it entails is that if you have lighting that's not in compliance and you show us pictures of that, and you show us what you want to replace it with, we'll give you up to $50 per fixture and $200 per property a rebate for that lighting. And if it's successful, the council's pretty much said that they will expand it to commercial and multifamily and other types of properties in town and replenish the funds. So if you're interested in that, let me know. So I mentioned that the city has a big role in this because with all new development, we're required to make sure that we have compliance with that new lighting ordinance. And so we ask developers when they bring their plans in that they show us a lighting plan that shows what kind of lighting they're going to include in their project. We also look at it for compliance with individual building permits. And so we approve that, and then they go build everything, and then we go back and inspect it later to make sure that what they actually said they were going to put in, they did. And so that's a huge component of this. We also do code enforcement on existing lighting. If you have a neighbor that just has a really annoying lighting, you can call the city and we'll look into it for you. We will do code enforcement if we have to. We're really trying to spend this time to educate, to get people to do the right thing. And I think when most people kind of hear why we have these rules and why it's important, all the things that Rima had mentioned, I think most people in the community want to do the right thing, and they'd probably be embarrassed to know that their lighting may have an impact to their neighbor or human health or wildlife. So we're hoping that people will just do the right thing on their own. We also have coordinated a dark skies committee, and that is made up of myself and some community members, because this is bigger than what the city, what I can do by myself. So we really need those volunteers in the community to kind of help get the word out, to help do these kind of education programs. And so if you're interested, we could always use a few more people. join our Dark Skies Committee and join the Science Club's board of directors at the same time. Yeah. So what can be done as an individual? Well, first I think it's just kind of educating yourself on what is smart and responsible lighting. These are the 5 principles that the Dark Sky International puts out in terms of outdoor lighting. First, make sure it's useful. Only put in the amount of lighting that you think you need. Targeted. Make sure it's pointed downwards and not upwards or outwards towards your neighbor. Use the lowest level that you can get by in terms of lumens, and then consider putting motion detecting or timer controls on them so that they're not in use when you don't need them. And then, as Rima mentioned, warm colored lighting. The lighting is measured. It's called coordinated color temperature (CCT). So if you're looking for your light bulb, make sure that it's 3,000 Kelvin or less, preferably 2,700 or less, and that'll get you into that warm color range. Here's a few details about our dark skies lighting ordinance, which was strengthened. Some of these requirements were requirements to become dark sky certified. So we were working on our lighting ordinance, and then halfway through we decided that we were going to go for the dark sky certification. But in order to get that certification, you had to commit to provisions from Dark Sky International to incorporate into your ordinance. And credit to the city council for being willing to increase kind of the requirements of that to be able to get that certification. One of the big ones, like I mentioned, is lighting retrofits. Not only do the private lights have to come into conformance, but one major thing was that if we're going to make private individuals comply, that the city needed to put their money where their mouth is as well. And including potentially having to retrofit our downtown Cascade Avenue lighting, because even though it looks like it's kind of in compliance, it's not. That kind of frosted lens on the lights actually diffuses light so that some of it actually gets pointed back upward towards the sky. So the council knew that approving this ordinance, the implication of that is that we would eventually have to look at those lights, and they were still supportive despite that. So with people like Rima holding their feet to the fire. But we've since, our Public Works Department's been very engaged on this, and we're starting with the low-hanging fruit of like the bathrooms at the parks and the well houses with the lighting that they have. They're starting to change those out to make sure that they're compliant. And then we'll start looking at the bigger ticket items here down the road. Soon we'll have some signage at the, one thing that we want to do is promote our dark sky designation. And so I'm working with ODOT to try to get some lights or some signage at the entrances to our community that kind of celebrates our dark sky certification. It's not as easy as well, maybe it's not easy. Maybe you wouldn't think it would be easy to get signage through ODOT. It's not. but we're working with them. They're trying to help us out. So one thing that Dark Sky has a great website if you ever want to go on it and kind of poke around. It's full of great information, and there's information about all the other communities in the country and the world that are Dark Sky certified. It's a quickly increasing number of communities, preserves, areas. There's like 5 or 6 different kinds of designations, and they're increasing rapidly throughout the world. So each time one gets a designation, another community hears about it, and they want to do it. I've been talking to the folks in Hood River who are trying to get one there, and they're running into some challenges. But these things just kind of build on themselves and kind of mushroom, which is great, because we can do everything. We can be great, 100% perfect here in Sisters, but if Ben's not doing their job, their light dome is going to start creeping over into our area, and it's going to have an impact. So it would be great if we worked together as a region on stuff like this. But here, if you want to take the QR code there, or go onto their website later, that's a great guide for kind of figuring out where you think your lighting might be. Next steps for sisters, continued education. Our Dark Skies Committee will continue to keep working on these items. The lighting rebate program, we hope it's a big success. Community events. We're also looking at potentially trying to designate one of the city parks as a dark sky friendly park where folks could come in, locals, visitors could come and set up their telescopes or be able to have a place where they can view the stars easily accessible from downtown. And so we're working with the city, not the city, but we're all working together trying to figure out what that looks like. Here's an example of one of the initial retrofits that the city did. This is the building on Main Avenue next to the park that the city owns that Explore Sisters utilizes. That shows on the left the original lighting, and then with the retrofit on the right, kind of showing just putting the lighting where it needs to be. We're not talking about making dark spaces. We're talking about just putting light where it's supposed to be. Being smart about it. So what else can you do? Just go out and look at the stars. Be an advocate out in the community with your friends and neighbors. Try to amplify this information of why it's important. Come to the city council meetings and continue to advocate for dark sky compliance. The Starshine, which is a nonprofit here in town, does dark skies parties several times during the summer. And I went to my first one last year. It was at Cliff Clements Park, and they're really entertaining and fun. You learn a lot about your night sky. Here's a picture of that event, actually. So keep an eye out for those. There's going to be, I think, 4 or 5 next summer. Visit your observatories. And then, of course, we started with a quiz, so we'll have to, this isn't a quiz, but kind of a poll. Show of hands, how many folks do you think have, talking about your own personal lighting, that are shielded? And when I mean shielded, that you really can't see, if you were to be at your property line, you wouldn't be able to see the light source. Okay. How many don't? How many wouldn't think that their lights can fly? All right, look at that lighting rebate. Warm colored and lumens. Those are things that you can easily determine on the light bulb itself and on the packaging. It's kind of like looking at a can, looking at the nutrition factors. You can glean all this information from that. Anybody have their lights off when not in use? That's one thing I've really noticed about Sisters is a lot of people don't turn their lights on, which makes compliance really easy for us. Glad that you choose to do that. So, like I said, these are some things that you can do. We really appreciate it. Stars up, lights down is our motto. And thank you. And I think both Rima and I are available for questions.
All right.
Do the questions. Do you have a microphone?
Because I have difficulty standing up, just take what you take the questioners.
Okay. How about you right there?
Well, I had about 16, but I'll try it.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Rima something about the, I get that name right, the chronotype or the...
Chronotype?
Right. So, in the past, we've always called ourselves, I was a night person, my husband was a morning person, and I would start grading papers about 9:30, and I would keep going. Well, when you talk about the light, I just want to know, like, I can't go to sleep unless I read for an hour, what am I doing to myself? Does that count?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I mean, I don't personally know for sure, but I would imagine if you use a warmer color light to read by, that would be helpful and as dim as possible to still see. So, I don't know how Kindles compare to books. I don't know if that's even been studied. That would be a very interesting study to do. But I imagine it's probably better for your kind of just that melatonin cycle to have the light be warmer. And I'd be curious how you feel, if you notice how you feel for that too. I think the night owls tend to maybe not be as impacted by being up at night, because that's kind of your natural chronotype. But I don't actually know. But I think that would be a very interesting study.
Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting point. I never thought about it. Thank you.
I think that some of our neighbors leave their lights on all night, and I think people believe that it's good for crime prevention. And I don't think the stats really bear that out. Do you know if you leave bright lights around your house on all night, are you less likely to be broken into?
There is not data that I know of that proves that. And, you know, if the lights are off, people that are doing crime also need to see. Yeah, but if the lights are off and then somebody's going around, they're probably going to have a light on to find their way. So that brings attention. But it would be very interesting to have somebody from the sheriff's department come and talk about that data. I think there's a perception that it is, but I don't know that the data aligns. And I believe there's a number of studies on Dark Sky International that they cite that it doesn't even, but.
Rima, there's a video that shows lighting for the police departments and sheriff's departments, and it shows the least amount of light, actually the police can see better, because bright lights blind them just like it does everybody else. And there's a very good video on that.
So David was saying there's a video on the, is it on the sheriff's website, you know?
I can find it.
It was on the dark sky.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I think Dark Sky had it originally, but I can find it for you.
More and more the data is not showing more light is safer, it's how we light. And again, yeah.
So your topic of fear, I thought that was really well put into your slide deck. Have you two gotten any pushback from the fear of the dark, or has that been a factor at all in Sisters?
Got a little, you know, before we adopted the ordinance, the council wanted us to go talk to the business community, and their hotel operator told me that they get a lot of visitors from the cities, you know, and it's quite dark here in Sisters, so they feel like that they need lighting for their customers because of that fear of, I think it's more fear of like wildlife, like versus like bad guys, is what he told me, because this particular one, you had to walk through the dark to get to your unit. So did get some pushback a little bit about lighting from you know, the facilities director at the school, because you know, he's looking at it from a safety perspective, and he's wanting to make sure, you know, with cameras and whatnot, if they have to use cameras later, they want to make sure that there's good enough lighting so that they can see what they need to see. But it shouldn't be. We're not like you say. We're not advocating dark streets. We're just advocating not lighting up the sky. You know, putting the light where it needs to be. You can still provide all the security that you need and still be dark sky compliant.
Have you heard an outcome of the high school being able to get the correct amount of lighting with the security cameras?
Have I heard of an outcome?
Or has it been positive?
Well, I think they're just going to do whatever he feels like he's going to do. I think he's looking at it from a different perspective, and I respect that. This is safety. So I haven't heard much. Maybe Rima knows more because she teaches at the high school. But that was just an example of a little bit of resistance that we got back when we started talking about this.
Over the last 15 years or so, we've seen a lot more very bright headlights. And I'm wondering if there's anything that can be done about that. I mean, that's obviously probably state legislation or something, but has that been kind of factored into this whole effort?
I have a smart aleck idea for it. How about downcast shielded headlights? No, but I think that is an interesting kind of issue that's kind of becoming more of an issue. We think about our lights on our buildings, but lights from vehicles are a big issue as well. And I don't know if there's any, do you know of any discussions about that? Do you have some information to share?
Not a lot of information, but just that has been addressed, like starting to be talked about. And ultimately, a really bright headlight, like having that contrast, it really messes with your night vision. So then so yeah, I don't think it's safer to have really bright ones in the bigger picture, but I don't know about what's being done. That is the big conundrum, like what do you do? And I think talking with each other and raising awareness is really big. But I recently got the privilege of going to Kauai, and the Costco in Kauai in Lihue they have very yellow lights in their street, in their parking lot. And then Home Depot on the net right across the street has really white, bright parking lot lights. And the feeling in the parking lot being under the yellow lights was this warm, calm, relaxed feeling. And the white lights, it amplifies the mood, gets your energy, anxiety up. And so I think that there's room for more studies around that as well. Yeah, so, thanks. Gail?
This question is to Scott. Does the ordinance apply to residential homes for compliance?
Yeah, it applies.
29, because I had read initially that it applied to businesses, but not residences, but that has changed.
No, it applies to all outdoor lighting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is on a lighter note. I love the lights in the winter that are in town, the ambiance of that, but I'm assuming they are not compliant or part of it.
So you're talking about like kind of
The
those,
outlines of the building.
the string lighting, we call it kind of the string lighting. Yeah, that was an interesting discussion during the adoption of the ordinance because obviously they're unshielded, they have light pollution. I think there was a push to ban them, but there was also a recognition amongst the city that a lot of people in Central Oregon like them, and so they didn't want to go so far as ban them, but did put some limitations on the making sure that they're turned off by 11 p.m. and that we're really trying to discourage businesses from kind of outlining their businesses with lights because, well, it looks festive and everything like that. When one does it, then the other one feels like they're kind of compelled to do it. And next thing you know, you have a bunch of unshielded lights. So you can have them, but there's some kind of reasonable restrictions on them.
Can they be converted to I know we're talking money, but to a more of an amber or a smoky light?
So can the city so you're talking about the holiday lighting?
All out, well, what's that outline of the buildings you go?
So I think in the ordinance it wrote in that they're supposed to be off by February 15th, is what I think, or maybe it was February 1st, 15th. So it was like from after Thanksgiving to February 5th, or maybe November after Halloween? I can't remember. November basically to February. And then they're supposed to be turned off. But there's going to need to be some education and enforcement on the people that have lights, like outlining their, like the string lights, and then the lights that outline the windows or the doors that are not holiday lighting. Holiday lighting is totally in compliance until February 15th, and then it should be off completely. But after that, there's definitely some businesses that have been not doing that, and the city has some work to do there.
Do you have an estimate of the cost of moving forward for the county to become compliant with its, the public lighting that they're responsible for?
The county or the city?
The city, I'm sorry, the city.
Cost.
Well, so the biggest one is the Cascade Avenue kind of decorative lighting, and we don't have. If we were to replace all the fixtures there, it could be upwards of a couple $100,000 because there's like 26 of them, I think. But I think the city's going to be interested in engaging with the community to see maybe if there's some more simple retrofits that could be done, or cheaper ways to bring it into compliance. So that'll be a discussion that the community will be having here. We'll engage with the community to have, but yeah, it could be a sizable cost.
Okay, I'll take back the microphone and thank our speakers, Rima and Scott, so much for a very enlightening. And thank you all for being here. If there are would-be directors, and I hope they are, there are ones in the back, Gail's holding them up. Go back there and put down your information. Thanks to everybody.